What is going on, everybody? Today I wanted to talk about, in a zombie apocalypse situation, what vehicle would you take? So let's say, sit in the house right now, you see on the news zombie outbreak, whatever, just even, not even zombie, say it's something realistic, and you need a vehicle to Russia's coming to invade us, or China, whatever. And, we're going to be having a post-apocalyptic war. What vehicle are you going to take when you leave the house? I thought about it. If I had both my vehicles here, what would I take? So I kind of started thinking, I'm like, well, the Crown Vic, this car is probably a little better on gas. It's roomier to an extent. The SUV obviously has more room, but in some ways it's a little bit roomier. You can kind of fit more people in it. Actually, no, I guess the SUV, the Jeep, you able to fit more people. This you can fit more people comfortably, if that really matters. I'm trying to think of the other benefits. Pretty much better on gas. I'd say reliability is, reliability's top notch. It's definitely quieter. So let's say there is a, zombie apocalypse or something. There's something quiet. That'd be good if you want to kind of be on the DL. You don't want zombies hearing you or something. You have the ram bar, so that would be good to, move stuff out of the way. There's tons of these. They're newer, so there's plenty of these around, parts, interchangeable and stuff. And then I thought about the Jeep too. I'm like, well, the Jeep, this thing can go anywhere. I could take it out in the woods. I can drive in the snow. Any situation I need to go in, this would be able to do it. It's not horrible on gas. It's not that bad. I'd say it's maybe a little bit less than the Crown Vic. So it's not like it's going to be a dramatic difference. I'd say it's just reliable. Definitely more room to hold stuff. You gotta kind of weigh out the pros and cons. So, I'm still thinking here, what I would actually choose. And then I started, thinking, categories. So I'm like, well, let's break it down to the motor. What motor's more reliable? Is the 4.6 more reliable, or is the 4.0 more reliable? Though I guess you may have the 4-cylinder Jeep with the 2.5. I'm ruling that out. So if you have a 2.5, I'm sorry. That's staying out of this video. But if you have the 4.0 in the Cherokee, or the 4.6, V8 in the Crown Vic, which one is more reliable? Which one are you going to take? They both have some common problems with them. I'm just going to use the motor in general from the entire motor itself. I'm not going to break it down year by year. So if I say, oh, there's this issue, and you go, oh, well, I have an 09, I don't have that problem. Listen, I get it. I know different years change. I'm using the motor as a whole. All right. So I started thinking about the motors, and I go, what are the common problems? Well, if you have a Crown Vic, they're known to spit spark plugs, and they're known to have the intake manifold leak. So I'm like, that's kind of a letdown. That's definitely something that could be, a problem in a situation where, you need your car to be reliable. Now, spitting a spark plug is definitely not good. You can't really drive around and misfire. You could, I guess. But it's not something you really want to be dealing with. In some ways, I'd actually almost have a leaking intake manifold, because at least, as long as it's not mixing with your coolant or anything, as long as it's just leaking coolant on the outside, and you just got to keep putting air, put air in it, got to keep putting coolant in it, that's almost a better situation, because worst comes to worst, you just run regular water through it. Obviously it's going to start corroding your system and whatever else, but at least you can keep your car cool. Just put some coolant in there. Hey, worst comes to scenario, you could probably piss in it if you really wanted to. Use that, you know what I mean? Just use whatever you got. Just throw it in the radiator and go, as long as it's cool. So that's kind of a letdown with the Crown Vic. I definitely say the spitting spark plugs and the intake manifold. That's definitely going to be something that could possibly be a reason why you wouldn't want to take this car. But then you look at the Jeep and you go, well, there's a few problems with this motor too. These motors, not the older ones, but I'm just going to say it anyway. You know, they're known to crack cylinder heads, which is on the 2001 Jeep. So, you know, last thing you want is a cracked cylinder head. And when you crack your cylinder head on these, on the 4.0s, it does mix your coolant. So that would definitely destroy your engine probably within a few thousand miles. And that would definitely leave you completely stranded at that point. I think, you know, the motor would just destroy itself within a few thousand miles if you crack your cylinder head. So in some ways, I think the motor in the Crown Vic may be a better option. You know, they're both 400,000 mile motors, really no problem as long as you maintain them. Now the 4.6 is definitely a little bit pickier with oil. They like the regular oil in there, you know, 5W20. Some people run 5W30, I guess you could do that. But they like the recommended factory oils. They do not like people mixing oils. As the 4.0, I mean, you can put any type of oil you really want in there. You could put I've seen people do 5W40, 5W30. I've seen people run straight weight, like just straight 30. So I've seen a lot of people put different oils. Like actually in this, I did the oil change today. I actually used synthetic blend diesel oil. So, you know, there's a lot of different oil choices you could use for this. They're definitely not as picky as the Crown Vic would be. For the coolant, you could probably mix whatever coolant in there. This, you could probably mix coolants. You could probably mix parts on this. Even if you're missing half the parts, it'll probably still run. I've seen people drive around with Cherokees that are literally misfiring on like 3 cylinders, and they're still driving around. As the Crown Vic, you're misfiring on 3 cylinders. I don't really think you're going to be going too far. They're definitely a little bit more finicky. So I would have to say, for complete longevity, you know, what is the most reliable motor? I'd say they're pretty much neck and neck. I think the 4.0 might have a little tiny bit of an edge, just for the sheer fact that you can kind of neglect it more and kind of do whatever with it, and it's still going to be there. As the Crown Vic is a little bit more, finicky. So I think the 4.0 wins in that aspect. So then, you know, we break it down, we get to the transmission. You know, what is the better trans option? Now, I think I know the clear winner here, but some of you guys may disagree. But without a doubt, the better transmission is in the Jeep. Without a doubt, whether it's an automatic or a 5-speed manual. I do have the 5-speed manual, so no matter what transmission you have, either or is going to be better than the Crown Vic transmission. Now, I don't hate these transmissions. People say that they're completely trash in these cars. I don't believe that. They're actually pretty decent as long as you maintain them, keep good fluids. Mine's original. I have 142,000 miles on it, so you know, the transmission in these cars aren't that bad, but that is definitely going to be the biggest issue I feel with this car. That's going to be its number one reason why you wouldn't take this car compared to the Jeep here. I think it's going to be that transmission, because they're just not as reliable. I mean, the automatics in these, they are like bulletproof. You cannot change the fluid in 200,000 miles, and you could power shift like every day. I'm telling you, the AW4 automatic transmissions that these Jeeps have are like it's almost impossible to kill them. You have to really try hard to kill one of the transmissions in this. The 5 speeds aren't quite as reliable as the automatics, believe it or not. But even the 5-speed manuals, the AX15, it's a great transmission. Now, if this had the Peugeot transmission, the older style, I would say, believe it or not, the auto in this is probably better, but they're kind of rare now. You don't really see, most of them that have blown up have already blown up the Peugeots, so there's not really too many of those around anymore. So in this situation, because there's a whole bunch of different transmission choices, so I'm not going to even factor that transmission in, because like I said, they stopped using the Peugeot in like 89. I think they stopped using it, 89 was the last year. So most people that had that transmission, they've already replaced it or whatever anyway at this point. So transmission, the Jeep here definitely takes a W, without a doubt. And then the last factor we get into, I think, is You know, just sheer reliability, the overall package that you have, whether it comes down to the interior, suspension stuff, just the overall reliability factor 100%. You know, what is going to last the longest, whether you're jumping it, hopping over curbs, just completely beating up the car. You know, in a zombie apocalypse situation, you may be running over zombies, you know, whatever you're doing. So, you know, what would be the most reliable car here? What can take the most abuse without having to be worked on? Now, this is kind of hard. I really can't give a 100% answer on what it is, because in some ways I feel like this is more reliable. In other ways, I feel like the Jeep is more reliable. Without a doubt, the electronics in this are better. Ford is much better with their electronics than Chrysler is. Chrysler's terrible with electronics. Jeeps are known to have electrical problems, so if you have power windows, expect those to go bad. Expect all electronical type things to go bad. If you have power seats, expect the power seats to go bad. All that stuff. So when it comes to that, electronics wise, I would say the Crown Vic wins hands down. Definitely, even though I've actually had electrical problems with this, it's still much more reliable than any Jeep. I'll tell you that. Mechanical wise, we went over that. I feel like they're pretty much even, but I think the edge has to go to the Jeep. And, you know, mechanical reliability. I don't know, that 4.0 and that transmission setup, whether it's an AX15 or a AW4. I'm sorry for the wind noise too, if there is any. I'm really trying to block it out. You know, that's like, I'm telling you, that is like the golden setup right there. What other things are reliable? Suspension. Suspension, if we're comparing stock to stock, which I guess we should, that would be a fair comparison. Because obviously that lifted and everything, you can't really compare the suspension to something like this. But if we had to compare them stock to stock, I would say the suspension in this is definitely stronger than the Jeep. Now, I'd say, like if I had to use mine as an example, I'd say the suspension's probably stronger in this. I mean, just more heavy duty, guys. It is what it is. You know, it's lifted and it's built to be beat on. So, stock for stock, though, I think the Crown Vic wins in suspension components. This is definitely better for hauling things. Obviously, you got the back. This is decent. I fit a lot of things in this car, but it just can't compete with, you know, having an open back like this does. This has a winch, but I'm trying not to compare modify. I'm trying to compare stock to stock. You know, technically a push bumper could come stock on these. I'm pretty sure you could order, well, maybe not, but a lot of, I don't know, I guess I can't use the push bumper. But I don't know, the push bumper staying on there, okay? It's official. The push bumper is a part of the stock configuration, okay? But you know, what are your thoughts, guys, on what you think the most reliable, you know, zombie apocalypse vehicle is compared to? Obviously, there's like a lot better stuff out there compared to, you know, the garbage that I have. But if you had to pick one of these two vehicles here, you know, which one are you leaving in? What are you gonna take? Well, you know, when that day comes. And I'll be honest with you, I still can't come up with an answer. I don't know. Ideally, it'd be great to take both. But I guess if I had to choose something to take, I don't know, guys. I think I may have to take the Jeep. I feel like that'd be the overall better choice, just for the sheer fact that I can go anywhere and not have to worry about it. As the Crown Vic, I mean, you're kind of limited to where you can go and what you can do. You can really only stick to like light dirt and street. Even in the snow, they're not really that great. So I don't know, guys. I think I got to take the Jeep. I feel like it's an overall just more reliable package, to be quite honest with you, over the Crown Vic. Now, for like, let's say daily driving, obviously this is, I'd say, more reliable, definitely a better vehicle for daily driving. But you know, when you go to, you know, visit your grandpa, whoever in the grave, and all of a sudden they pop out of the ground, when that day comes, I think I'm going to take that Jeep, guys. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. You know, what are you taking in a zombie apocalypse? You taking the Crown Vic here, or are you taking yourself an XJ Cherokee? So that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next video, and take care, guys.